Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original presented by Prize Picks. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We're going to get to Travis Hunter winning the Heisman. I got some thoughts and ideas around that one. We got your voicemails. But as we start this show, and I've been looking in the chat room from the YouTube, and we got something also in this episode of the show that I'm not really as accustomed to having here. And maybe it happens all the time. I just looked at the YouTube this time, but we seem to have an uncommon and distinct proliferation of haters. And I have to ask you this question sincerely. Like, I think this is a real question to ask at this point in time, given where we are in the process with this. What kind of an empty person do you have to be? What kind of an unhappy, miserable soul do you have to be out here hating on the Lions? And that's right. I'm talking about you, J Talk a Lot 19. And I know why they call you J Talk a Lot 19. It's because you talk a lot. And you know what you do a lot? You know why you always be talking a lot? Why they call you Talk a Lot? Because you can't stop talking about these nuts. That's why they call you J Talk a Lot. Now, how about you stop being like, just sit down. Just sit down, right? One dude was in the chat room and he was like, yo, Bo and his Lions got the full minutes performance from Josh Allen. And he right. That is exactly what happened. I thought that was a perfectly fair thing to say. But then after that, he put one of the faces that be crying on it like he thinks it's funny. It may be funny, but you funny looking. How about that? Right. So we got to talk a lot about these nuts and beat in the face out here with something to say. Right? So what am I going to say about the Lions? I can count. What do you think I'm going to say? They got their asses kicked. You think I wasn't watching the game? They lost. But man, talking about they got the full minutes, they absolutely got the full minutes. And it's one thing to get the full minutes, and I guess this is the only way it could be the true full minutes. They got the full minutes, and it was clear within 15 seconds of the first time the Bills had the ball that the full minutes has showed up in the house. And the full minutes showed up in the house in optimal full minute circumstances. And it is this. The Lions just be out here running man. And I don't know how many of y'all remember Aaron Glenn as an NFL player. Aaron Glenn was a very good college player and a very good NFL player. Multiple-time Pro Bowler at corner at 5'9", 180 pounds, right? Like, he got the job done. But these boys you got on that team can't cover like you. In fact, I'm not even entirely certain that all them boys that you got on your team are actually football players. I saw something, Sean, that said, counting IR and just the dudes who got hurt in the game, there's 15 people.
Yeah, and Bo, I texted this to you, but I'm going to put it up on the screen. We got another injury that's really unfortunate for the Lions.
What now?
David Montgomery,
out
indefinitely with an MCL injury.
Which one is he, Sonic or Knuckles?
I guess Sonic? I guess he's Knuckles because Gibbs is the fast one as Sonic.
I guess so. I never bothered to figure out the distinction. I didn't realize that. So Knuckles was the change of pace? I had never really thought about what it was that Knuckles provided. I was out of the Sonic the Hedgehog universe when it was just Sonic. Like, I know it's Sonic and it's rings and it's stuff like that. I never really bothered to pay any attention to Knuckles. Do they still do stuff with Sonic the Hedgehog? Because I'm a little surprised that the youngsters are up on him. It's kind of like when you find out the youngsters know about a new wrestler and then an old wrestler, and then you find out actually he's still wrestling.
There's now 3 Sonic movies that are live action. Jim Carrey is the bad guy in them. Yeah, there's 3 of them. So the young people all get Sonic now. It's like they brought it back.
Did we already run out of ideas to the point where they felt like they had to make a movie out of Sonic the Hedgehog?
Not even just 1, 3, Bo. There's 3 of these movies.
I think I've told you about this, but every time I see an old commercial, like that's a new commercial that's like an old commercial. I no longer think it's an homage. I just think they lazy.
They're just copying it. Yeah, 100%.
It's out of ideas. That's the thing with the Lions. The Lions are the best team in the NFL, but I don't know how much that matters when can't none of them show up to work. Like, I don't know how many of them can hang, need to hang, all of this stuff. I just know that if you ain't got no dudes and all your DBs are getting hurt, they were just sending dudes long, and Josh Allen was hitting them all, man. The thing about Josh Allen has always been he's a high ceiling, low floor sort of player. And apparently he ain't worried about and he ain't tripping on making none of the giant mistakes that he was prone to make before. Unless something drastic happens, he's going to win the MVP. You can make your statistical case if you want. It doesn't matter. 4 straight games on national television, and Josh Allen has been nails. Even if they didn't win all the games, he has looked like a superhero in those games. The last 2 games, he has 5 touchdowns passing and 5 touchdowns rushing. Like I say, he looks like a high school player, and I mean that not in the sense that he looks primitive. I mean in the sense he looks like it is in high school where there's just this one kid that's bigger and faster and stronger than everybody else. That doesn't happen in the professional ranks. He's that guy. That's what he's getting done. The Lions have problems, except another game where I myself was proud to say that I root for the Honolulu Blue. Number 1, shout out to you, Jared Goff. Jared Goff held that shit together, Sean. You peeped that they was out there getting their asses kicked. He ain't stopped. He kept going. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah, you look at the stats and seeing Jared Goff nearly threw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, and you're like, how did the Lions lose?
Yeah, they lost because they couldn't stop anything or anybody. That was it. I know there's been a lot of discussion that's gone around the onside kick that they made. And the onside kick, not only was the onside kick the right move, if they weren't going to get the onside kick, it worked out the best way with them running it all the way down. At least that saved time. They was going to get scored on regardless. Right, the boys is out there playing like cheeks on defense. Yeah, they did try an onside kick every time. Like, the thing I give Dan Campbell credit for, and I do think that there's a thin line between what he did and panic, but desperate times call for desperate measures. And what the tendency is in the NFL is to wait as long as possible before doing the desperate thing, right? No, he's doing the desperate thing off the rip. I think it's kind of like what happens if you score a touchdown and you're going into the 2-point conversion and you're down 16. At some point, you're going to need a 2-point conversion, so you might as well go for the 2-point conversion now so that you have more information to know what you need to do, depending upon whether or not you get it. I felt like that was a similar sort of thing with that onside kick. Like, look, man, it was going to come down to that. We might as well just go ahead and do it right now, right? Why wait? They went ahead and did that. But, hey, man, the boys kept playing. They just, unfortunately, because they kept playing, dudes kept getting hurt. By the way, talk a lot about these nuts, also said something about how he hopes the Lions fall to the 5 seed. And that's the thing that I don't seem to understand is why it is that you're rooting for such a thing. Maybe you from Minnesota, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's the kind of thing you're going for. In that case, why don't you just say that instead of being a buster, right? And they're like, John Wright, Lions took that L Sunday. I just want to point something out to you, John. If you can't come up with nothing more interesting to say than that, why don't you just sit over there and shut the fuck up like everybody else? No, I don't get that. There are hundreds. But hopefully by the end of this, there will be thousands of people that are listening live and finding a way to shut the fuck up. But you ain't got no, Lions took that L Sunday. Yeah, you ain't have nothing to say. What'd you have to say when they was catching them dubs? Bet you ain't have nothing to say when you was catching them dubs, when they was catching them buster. Anyway, let me stop talking about these suckers. Give some credit to the Eagles. They beat the brakes. This is an interesting thing, Sean. I was watching the in-season tournament this weekend, and after the first game, TNT ran like an old episode inside the NBA, and they had one of them cats from their hockey coverage. I don't even know what his name is, but apparently at some point he got into a fight with a bunch of people at a restaurant in Phoenix. I think it may have been the Houstons in Phoenix. But they took him in the parking lot and tuned his ass up because it was a lot of them. And they had some guy, I think Andrew Marchand of the Bruins, they did an interview with him during the game, and he says, and Marchand said something to him about the guys that beat the wheels off him outside that restaurant. And I thought that was interesting because black people, at least in the state of Georgia, say beat the brakes off of you. In Canada, they say beat the wheels. I wonder how that changed, like according up and down the longitudes.
Yeah, that's actually a really funny point of the difference of that. It was NHL star Paul Bissonnette who fought six men in Scottsdale. I mean, good for him. More power to you if you fight six guys on your own.
Well, he said he didn't like the way, it was a restaurant that he frequents, and he didn't like the way that they was talking to the help. Yeah,
he was defending the staff.
Yeah, but I don't think if he knew it was six of them, that six of them, by the way, who clearly were prepared.
They were six big dudes. I remember seeing a clip of it. I was like, that's six dudes I wouldn't want to fight.
Well, hey, man, look, let me tell you, they talk about that all the time. That time, all six of them beat up that one man. But anyway, the Eagles beat the brakes off the Steelers. I have feared always that the Steelers were a paper tiger just because the idea that Russell Wilson just stopped being sorry has been a level of disbelief I've had difficulty suspending. And they went out there and got waxed. But of course, because I made the point that teams have been limited by Jalen Hurts and his passing, in spite of me saying all the things that I've had to say that are positive about Jalen Hurts, he has them one good game, and now they coming from everywhere, right? Oh, man, Sean, I forgot about this. Can you check that clip of A.J. Brown blaming us?
Okay, yeah, I'll try to get that clipped off.
You seen that? Yeah, so the Eagles, they did this thing because they always got their business in front of us. Like, they messy like that. They always got something messy going on. It was a thing on the sideline yesterday where Sirianni got into it with the defensive line coach because Jalen Carter did something stupid and slapped somebody upside the face, and Sirianni wanted to come talk to him, and the defensive line coach told him to go away. And then that big old white man, Dominic, Big Dom, he didn't even do nothing to help Sirianni or even separate them in that case. And by the way, just in case you guys did not know this, I've never really talked about this on the show, but I want to help you guys understand something. You may notice that I always call Dominique. I always say all three syllables. He does not like to be called Dom, and there's only one Neek, and he used to play for the Hawks until February 24th, 1994, when those morons traded him away for one half season of Danny Manning. Anyway, the reason Dominique does not like to be called Dom is that when you hear the name Dom, you envision some big old Italian white man. And when you think to yourself, what Italian white man are you talking about? I'm talking about Big Dom for the Eagles. And Dominique is not Big Dom.
Now that makes sense. I still remember in Vegas when we were setting up a car to get Dominique out there. I think someone, either me or Greg, referenced him as Dom, and you were like, "Don't call him that." It was me. You're like,
nah, he's not here for that. He don't like that. He don't like that. And look, I defend people's right on that, man. People be taking all kinds of liberties with my name, so I respect that. But anyway, that is his reason. We got that A.J. Brown clip. Now, remember last week, A.J. Brown was like, they need to improve passing. You remember that? He said that. They need to improve passing. Now listen to him.
The touchdown. I know you guys have done it before, but was that kind of a good way to show people like,
for sure. That was our moment to tell everybody shut up. Honestly. So yeah.
Do you think?
You was the one that was supposed to shut up. You talking about you gonna tell me to shut up? I wouldn't have said nothing if it wasn't for you. What are you talking about? Like, even Jalen Hurts sat down in his presser talking about us. Is that what y'all wanted to see? Is that what your mans wanted to see? It was your mans that had the problem with you. It was your mans that came out talking bad about you in front of these people. It was your other mans who said that y'all used to be homies and y'all ain't homies no more. Y'all need to take that up in what they call it, a players only meeting. That's what y'all need to have. Instead, y'all out here acting like it's on me. Anyway, for all of y'all who were so happy that Jalen Hurts had a good game, I'm not saying the man can't play. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I'm saying that limitations in passing games have followed him at every stop he's reached, even on teams where every week they had the best players, even in seasons where he was like number 2 in the Heisman voting. This has happened. These are statements of facts. It's not my fault. So when his homeboy come out there complaining about the passing, I mean, let me stop. I don't know if they home. I don't know what they are. They always got something going on. Anyway, but if they come out there talking about there's something going on with the passing, partner, don't none of y'all blame this on me, okay? Because the NFC is going to be wild. Anybody can get it right now. Hurts can mess around. Okay, let me put it this way about Hurts. This is probably the best way for me to put it so you get that I'm not hating. Something always has to be somebody, and this is what it is. Wide receivers, running back, quarterback. Where do you think the Eagles are the weakest? Like, you have an argument for strongest on a couple of different positions. Weakest is a no-brainer. It's at quarterback, right? The position of theirs that you feel the least likely will show up. It's the quarterback. It's got to be somebody, and on that team is the quarterback. So, like, deep down inside, you don't disagree with me nearly as much as you want to. You just got a little bit mad, and in some cases, you just think Jalen Hurts is cute. What can I say? Anyway, anybody can do it in the NFC because everybody's got something like that. Not even a glaring issue, but like something obvious. Minnesota, for example, you can throw all them Sam Darnold numbers in front of me if you want. I don't believe that shit. You know what I'm saying? Green Bay, I got to act like what we saw early in the year and the potential recklessness of Jordan Love. I just have to act like that's not going to happen again. In spite of the fact when it's rolling for Jordan Love, he looks the closest to Josh Allen as anybody else when he gets it rolling. And I don't mean in terms of how good he is. I mean just in terms of how he plays. But they can get it, obviously. The Rams are trying to get this thing cracking. They're 8-6. Obviously, they can get it. And the Lions, pretty soon, are going to have dudes from the Tigers and the Pistons playing for their defense. So, you know, we understand that anybody can get it. Meanwhile, the one thing that we thought we were sure of, even if the team wasn't so good, was Patrick Mahomes. But he just had the high ankle sprain. And guys, they got a problem. They've got a giant problem. They are fools if they think about playing him this game or the Christmas game. Like that to me would just be just full-on preposterous. High ankle sprain's a 6 to 8 week sort of situation, right? Just generally speaking, let alone looking at the one specifically that he had. Oh, no. The Chiefs got a problem. Also, Sean, I watched a little bit of that game. They look like cheeks. Cheeks, I tell you. Cheeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the most fortunate thing for them that they played the Browns, who as you say, cheeked them. But yeah, why does it feel like Patrick Mahomes always has an ankle sprain heading into the playoffs? I feel like this is like a consistent thing.
This is fair. But I'm looking at they're not good at anything when they have the ball right now. Period. They're not good at anything. I don't know how my buddy Nick is talking himself into this right now, but they are offensively challenged. Like, we are really going into the playoffs in a way where it feels like anybody has a chance except for this one thing in the AFC. If you ask me to point to a team with an obvious weakness, there's only one that I don't see having an obvious weakness, and they have the dude that looks like the MVP. If Buffalo mess around and get home field, which, by the way, is still going to be tough to do, Sean, the Chiefs, like, you know something, but then you see it and you're like, oh, damn, the Chiefs are 13-1.
It's ridiculous to look at on paper because every week you're like, are they going to win this game?
Every week. What are we doing here? The Bills' point differential is about double the Chiefs' point differential. Double. Lamar Jackson, who has one of the most incredible statistical profiles I have ever seen, and was out there. I mean, granted, they was playing against a Catholic school team from New York. But he was out there running around, holding up his pants. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot is going on here. But Buffalo, can they get, I think this is a better way to put it with Buffalo. Can they get the AFC Championship game at home? Because they don't need the number one seed to be able to do that. They need somebody else to go to beat Kansas City, which looks possible. But if Buffalo gets the number one seed in the AFC, you cancel Christmas, homeboy. It is a full-on wrap. So, Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy. I am very happy for him that he won the Heisman Trophy. And I want to make a couple of points about him winning the Heisman Trophy. Not all of them directly about him, but a few. First of all, I saw on the internet, the voting was actually very close. And I liked seeing a close Heisman vote because I think that the presence of cable television and the influence that ESPN has on the sports discourse has made it such that back in the day, there used to be, I don't know who's going to win the Heisman stuff. And that doesn't happen anymore. It is much more standardized because we're consuming from the same trough. So like the idea that there are voting blocks from different parts of the country used to matter a lot more for the Heisman because of the way the information was spread. And you would see these big jumps and differences of the voting in different places based on their familiarity with and proximity to these players, right? You don't have that nearly as much, but this was a tough one. On one hand, a dude that put up rushing totals that, to me, in my mind, should get you the Heisman Trophy. Like, I think a big old 2,000 plus running total is a Heisman Trophy season, generally speaking, right? On the other hand, Travis Hunter's log line for the Heisman is maybe the best corner in America won the Biletnikoff Trophy. Yeah, that's kind of tough. Like when I looked up and saw that he had 14 touchdown catches, I was like, oh, okay, I don't really need to see anything else here. That is unreal what it is that he has done playing there. I don't care what the Big 12 happens to be right now. And this is why I say that, and that's important. And look, there's room to be critical about what the relative strength of the Big 12 is. However, if Texas had a player that was in the Big 12, just as it is constituted right now, and they were doing things, we'd have criticisms of the Big 12, but we still find it to be okay. The only difference between this Big 12 and last year's Big 12, truly, now granted, yeah, they moved a lot of teams in and out, but the only true difference is that this Big 12 doesn't have the brand names of Texas and Oklahoma. And those brand names of Texas and Oklahoma were somewhat of a hit or miss proposition in the last 10 years on what you were getting from them, okay? He did it in a conference that if they were in it last year, we would have called it a legitimate conference. I don't think this conference is as good as the Pac-12 was last year, but still, I think he did it. I also think that if you wanted to vote for Genty, that's fine. I don't think those were bad votes if you went in different directions on that one. Like, it's okay. Good for him. I do think that a lot of people who had issues with Hunter are probably residual issues that they had for Deion Sanders. That's what it comes down to. Now, I want to throw this out there. I don't think Deion has gotten enough credit this season for something that I didn't really think he had in him, which was this season has really been about the players and not about their coach. Think about that. It ain't all this we coming and all the shots at Deion and Deion answering for everything at every turn and all of this. Like last year, there was much more attention paid to Colorado because Deion got so much attention, and Deion got so much attention because he is Deion Sanders. This year has been about the players. And I love that for Travis Hunter. Love that for Travis Hunter. And give credit to Deion because I didn't really think he could do that. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, especially if he doesn't have players that have the star power of his son and this guy as this goes forward. But I, as someone who has been very critical of Deion and much of the belief that just about everything Deion does is for Deion, even though I do think Deion wishes to do things for other people and wishes to be helpful and 100% does see himself as someone whose goal is to help and serve these young men and help them get to the places he wants to go. I think very often he does it through himself. I don't think that's what happened this time. I just don't feel like I've seen that this year. If I had, I would criticize it. I haven't. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. Now, as I give him credit for not making Travis Hunter about him, and I take a few minutes to make Travis Hunter about Deion, I will get back to talking about Travis Hunter. This is, to me, one of the all-time great seasons, performance of a college football player. To me, it's an all-time great. I just can't. I remember when Champ Bailey played corner and also played receiver at Georgia, and he was a receiver. I remember when Charles Woodson played corner and receiver at Michigan and he won the Heisman Trophy. He was a receiver. Hunter was that dude. Like, that to me is very, very, very different. He was 100% that dude. And I don't think we didn't watch him as much this year as we had. And that part I do think is a little disappointing, though I guess the numbers might be there. I don't know what the rating said. I know in terms of the larger discourse, it wasn't there in that same way. I watched some Colorado games, but I admit that I was not on them the same way I was last year, because last year it was a little bit more relevant for my job. But all the same, he gets all the props. Now, Sean, I don't, you hang out with a fair number of black people. I don't know how involved you are in the conversations that we seem to be having, and I don't always know how far these conversations trip over into like mainstream America. By the way, Sean, I think a lot of people who listen to this show think that you are one of us, because I see people say that they don't know them. They did not know my producer was Asian. I think they think you like DJ Theo.
I remember the first year people would tune into the YouTube and be like, "Wait, Sean's not black?" And I was like, I don't know what gives it away. I think I sound Asian,
But you know what? Okay, so I was going to say, I don't think that people have an idea of what sounds Asian is, except, yes, they do have an idea of what they think sounds Asian is, and no, you do not sound like that. Like, that is, I will not, I have no intention of giving you a hint as to what I mean. Yeah. No. They got it a little bit mixed up, but this young man's girlfriend has entered the chat of the conversation. And so you and I, we were talking about this offline. Hunter has a YouTube show with his girlfriend, which, okay. They are engaged. They are going to get married in May. Sean, he appears to love her dirty draws.
Yeah, I don't know why else you'd have a YouTube channel with your significant other than that.
When you're Travis Hunter, like the potential is powerful. Nah, he seems to be 100% for real deal in love with this woman. He met her when he was in high school, all of the things. And they, like I said, they are getting married in May. And so this thing has happened, and this happens all the time, just about everywhere. I do not have children, but this is a very common thing when you observe the behaviors of younger people and you think about your own life and you think about all the lives that you have seen. When you, as adult, have a tendency, see a younger person with a significant other, and they are very, very deeply in love and making permanent kind of decisions in their early 20s, we all have a tendency to say to ourselves, don't do it. Reconsider. Read some little. Like, hey, you sure about this one? Like that is what all of us with the guys of hindsight and everything else. We all see these circumstances, and you see a young person that young, and they like, yeah, we gonna get married, and you like, nah, I don't think you should. I don't think that's a good idea. That's what we all tend to do, and we all mean well in the course of it. But see, there's another level of this that's happened to Travis Hunter that's a bit different, which is he already got a lot of money. Okay? I read something that said that boy got a ring that cost something in the neighborhood of $100,000. Now, if that is true, what a time. Let's start there. But number two, all the old heads is like, bruh, are you sure? Bruh, is that the move that you want to make? And then what happens is I see loud conversation about this dude's relationship, and he's like 21 years old. I see people putting up videos of the way his girl was acting at some event that he was having and she wanted to go home, and she's like, what am I supposed to do? Just sit here. Some story come out about how she said initially he wasn't her type, and then they went out, and then they fell in love. And so people are like, yeah, she don't even like you. She just with you for the money, which those people are projecting, but what they're projecting is why they think somebody would like that young man. And I think you need to be careful about what it is that you're really saying when you're doing that, because what you're doing truly is insulting him. Y'all out here saying that would nobody want to be with him if he didn't have no paper. And I mean, maybe, but y'all need to chill out about that sort of thing. I remember one time, Sean, one of my homeboys asked me, he was like, now that you're on TV and stuff like that, he's like, how do you know that a woman likes you for who you are and not what you got? And I'm like, because I'm dope.
I feel like it's that easy for me.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I was doing pretty good when I was broke too. Like, ain't never no time I questioned that, right? Like, it's disheartening to see the way that people are talking about that, right? And I look at, like, on one level, I want to speak to the adults in the conversation and be like, yo, I don't know how crazy you think a lot of y'all sound. As men, as women, as everywhere. I don't think y'all know how wild y'all sound in this. But on the other hand, I just want to throw this out there for Hunter, because I am curious to know what role Deion had in influencing him with the YouTube show with his girl, for example. Because one thing that Deion Sanders has done in retirement, and I think one of the reasons why he is such an interesting topic or has become such a big talker, and when I say talker, I mean talker for people like me, like a good talking topic in the range of people that care about him, is as he's been retired, he's done a lot of like reality television, which you seeing him with his wife and everything else, right? Number two, Deion is Mr. Marketing. He has a sense for this better than anybody else. And something I saw somebody make a note of online that I hadn't thought about is that the dudes that are big time these days do not present as bachelor as they did in the past. They present as part of a couple, right? And so in this world where you give everybody access to your life or whatever, that means that all these people are given access to their relationships. And Travis Hunter is learning the hard way that you can invite people into your business, but you can't even kick them out. They don't leave until they want to, once you let them in. There's nothing that you can do. And unlike my partner who once had to kick his sister-in-law out of his house, you can't even go get a letter from the state for eviction notice to say it's your house with your business. Your business is just a theoretical idea. Once they in it, you can't do anything else. And so I look, in the day after Travis Hunter has won the Heisman, he's making video talking about how his girl is at the crib drinking and crying because of all the attention that she's receiving. Because you can make the argument that Travis Hunter has been planning or practicing or training for this fame for all these years. That woman has not. I can't imagine what it's like to have all these eyeballs on her. I don't know what their situation is. I definitely think a 21-year-old getting married is stupid. Like stupid in a sweet way, right? But they look, if that's what you're going to do, that's fine. That's where it goes. That's what it is. But I can't get passionate about being in Travis Hunter's relationship. I can't do that. But what I can do is really empathize for the idea that for a generation that's as online as this generation is, this dude just won the Heisman. And if you were to search for his name, a significant portion of it is people telling him that he shouldn't win the Heisman, telling him that his girl ain't shit, and telling him that the only reason she with him is because he got money. Yo, those are what these times are. Like, think about what all this put together. A college kid paid $100,000 for a ring for his girl, and they do a YouTube show about their lives, and he just won the Heisman Trophy, and somebody took a camera phone video of her being ready to go when she's at an event that's got nothing to do with her and everything to do with him, and everybody's watching the ceremony and seeing whether or not she stood up when it's time for him to get the Heisman, and not a single one of those people even knows her name. Not a single one. Yo, man, we tripping right now. We really, really tripping right now on all of this. So to that young man, congratulations on winning the Heisman, and the best of luck in managing everything else that comes with it. I wish I could have been the one to tell you in advance what I just told you about your business. That's some game a lot of y'all need. Y'all like the way I put that too. You can let them in, but you can't even kick them out. That's game, baby. I wish somebody had given you that, because I don't think that money or whatever you get from it feel worth it right now. Do it. And I just say all that to say, look at how the happiest weekend, which should have been in that man's life, the happiest Saturday, could quickly turn into a really whack kind of Sunday. Damn shame. The NBA is in full swing and the NFL playoffs are right around the corner, which means you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite teams only on Prize Picks. You can make a Prize Picks lineup between the NFL and the NBA in as little as 60 seconds. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. But rather than hearing it from me, let's hear from our expert pickers. Sean, how the picks been going for you?
Bo, I believe I'm an expert in losing because this month has not been the best for all my picks. But with the NBA and NFL heating up, I can make picks between both leagues. And with the flex play, I can still cash out if my lineup isn't perfect. But as always, make sure you stick around for the end of the show to hear my upcoming picks. And if you know me, you know I'm always going to pick more.
So make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Peloton has what you need to keep you on track for your goals no matter what season you're in. Peloton helped me recover from my injury, and now I'm back in the gym using all the great stuff Peloton has to offer. Peloton has all sorts of classes depending on how hard you want to train. If you want to take it easy some days, you can take a lighter cycling or cardio class to help you with your recovery. They have programs to keep you on track, from strength training programs you can use at the gym to meditation and yoga for the post-game. Plus, you can challenge yourself anywhere with Peloton's all-access membership. You can work out where you need to, like at home, on your bike, tread, and row, or take your favorite classes on the go and at the gym with the app. The app is super convenient, and I genuinely use it every week. And for me, I can really speak to Peloton's wide range of stretching and recovery classes, which are perfect to get my body moving at 100%. So make sure you download the Peloton app today. Find your push, find your power with Peloton at onepeloton.com. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a couple bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. And if you don't believe me, Sean, tell them how easy it is to sign up.
Bo, it's so easy that you could probably get your Mint Mobile set up by the time I'm done with this ad read. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/Bomani. There you'll see right now all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone in any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Bomani. That's mintmobile.com/Bomani. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Bomani. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigs on a limited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile more for details.
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. No need for the social media feeds. We got you. Now, if you haven't heard.
All right, Bo, here's our first one of the day.
Hi, I'm Keren Landman, and I'm a senior health reporter at Vox.com. I recently wrote a story about how drug expiration dates are pretty much made up. The dates you see on prescription or over-the-counter drugs aren't a result of careful testing drug companies do to see exactly how long it takes for any given drug to tip from effective to ineffective. They're just arbitrarily selected to comply with other Food and Drug Administration regulations, which usually means drugs are stamped with an expiration date that's about 3 years out from the date they're made. Studies have shown drugs actually work well beyond those expiration dates, and in the U.S. alone, we're wasting more than $750 billion a year throwing out drugs that might still work. Manufacturers absolutely could and should do studies to see how long their drugs really last, But it's not in their best interest to do that because they make more money if you stock up more frequently. Pharmacists aren't going to take on the legal liability of telling you it's safe to take an expired drug. So what do you do with this information? Well, drugs don't become poisonous as they age. They just lose potency. That can certainly be dangerous for life-saving drugs like EpiPens, asthma rescue inhalers, or insulin. So if you rely on these medications, make sure your supply is fresh. But if you have a cold or a headache and your choice is to take an expired drug or wait hours to get a new bottle from the pharmacy, it's probably fine to try that expired drug. One exception is eye drops. Whether they're fresh or expired, if they're stored wrong or for too long, they can grow bacteria, and that can make them dangerous. Also, to maximize medications' shelf lives, store them in a cool, dry, dark place like the bedroom. Ironically, your bathroom's medicine cabinet is one of the worst places to store drugs.
Hey, Sean, how come nobody told us this thing about eye drops? Like, I don't know about you, but, but back when I was a little less comfortable with who I was, I would feel the need to keep eye drops on deck. But whoever gets to the end of a bottle of eye drops, I didn't know it could grow stuff in it.
I was like, everything in the article seemed normal until the eye drops part. I was like, this is news to me. This one is actually pertinent to me.
Yo, like that one right there. I'm like, why didn't you put this at the top of the story?
And I'm not good with eye stuff. Like, that's why I don't wear contacts. Like, I don't like stuff getting touched in there. And so, like, the thought of, like, germs in my eye drops freaks me out.
The whole point of the eye drops is so your eyes won't be red no more.
Exactly.
You telling me that I'm putting critters? And by the way, I need to look a little more closely about what it is that makes it get bacterious. Because I didn't, look, the other stuff, I'm like, hey, man, if it's so bad that you got to take something in the middle of the night, it ain't going to kill you, go ahead. Like, if that expiration date stuff was really going to kill you, it'd be a lot stronger because we'd be doing a lot more suing. You understand what I'm saying? But that eye drop thing, news.
And I truly, I can't remember the last time I've ever finished an eye drop bottle in my life.
Let's think what all is on there. It's an eye drop bottle, some chapstick. What else do you not get to the end?
Like,
of?
I've never finished like a thing of Neosporin or something if I have a cut. Like,
yes.
Never once.
Yes. You don't know too much about this life, but pomade.
Oh, yeah.
You get the Sporting Waves or the Murrays, any of those.
Never finished
Nobody
one of
has
those.
seen the bottom. Yeah, no one has ever. How do they stay in business?
I honestly don't know. Maybe expiration dates. Maybe they're like the material in your hair damages your hair. You go bald or something,
There we go. Your Sporting Waves has gone bad.
Exactly.
Your Dax has gone bad.
All right, here's the next one.
This is Adam Clark Estes. I'm a senior technology correspondent for Vox. And if you're like me, you have drawers full of old cables that for whatever reason you can't throw out and you don't need. Maybe you have old phones in there too, or even an old laptop. You could recycle them or even sell them, but who has the time? And you're not the only one that feels this way. Only 12% of small electronics get recycled, and that means billions of dollars worth of materials, including precious metals like gold and silver, end up in landfills. There are also rare but critical minerals like indium, which is used in touchscreens, that gets lost if you throw out old phones and laptops. Now, those old cables are made of copper, by the way, which isn't quite gold, but it is valuable. In 2022, the world produced 137 million pounds of e-waste, which includes everything from broken circuit boards to discarded TV sets. That's 17 pounds of e-waste per person, and some estimate that up to $60 billion worth of e-waste gets lost every year. And when you don't recycle it, not only does the world lose out on all those valuable components, but mining for new minerals does devastating damage to the planet. As for those critical minerals, it's increasingly hard to find them in nature, so it just makes sense to reuse what you have. Recycling those old cables and phones is also not as hard as you think. You can take them to big box stores like Best Buy, who will make sure they get recycled. You can even take them to Goodwill. And there are also e-waste specific drop-off sites. You can look up where to find one near you on websites like Earth 911 and Call to Recycle. And if your gadget still works, you might even be able to trade it in for credit or a new device at places like Back Market and Amazon, or you could just sell it on eBay. By the way, when you need a new device, buying refurbished is cheaper and better for the planet. Honestly, anything you do with your old electronics would be better than throwing them in the trash or even just leaving them in your drawer. After all, they're not going to recycle themselves.
First of all, don't tell me too much about, or don't tell the world about this stuff having copper in it. Because the last thing the dope fiends need to know is that there's a new way to get some copper. Ain't nothing safe, man. Motherfuckers gonna be climbing my window like Spider-Man trying to get an HDMI cable, all because you said it got some copper in it.
I still remember reading a story that someone cut all the Tesla electric chargers because they found out they had copper in them and they were able to sell them for a big portion. I was like, yeah, I don't want people knowing I have copper in my home.
Well, also, you know the catalytic converter game. That's the one, too.
That's the big one.
Snatching the
Yes.
catalytic. Because it's chock full of minerals, right? Like, it's such a wild thing to say. You get it because it's chock full of minerals. But I do want to make this point, and the recycling part is important. I watched a documentary about this the other day on Netflix. I've seen some other things about this. But the problem with the idea of recycling is, he's like, the big box stores will recycle this for you. The big box stores say they will recycle this for you. Whether or not they will is its own discussion. They say they will recycle this for you. I don't know about this, but from watching that documentary, I can't even remember the name of it, but it's about how they keep just trying to make us buy more stuff. And it raises the question as to, like, so what happens to the stuff after we buy it? And basically it just all washes ashore in India somewhere. And a lot of these jokers that claim they recycle it, man, they just go throw that shit out over there in them other places, and they just wash up in the beaches, man. I'm trying to plan this trip to Vietnam, and they say you got to be careful with the beaches, man. You mess around and just show up over there, man. It's just stuff railed up on the beach, man. Like, it's a lot of that. So yes, I have a lot of these cables that I need to do something with them, but let me get them out of my house before the fiends show up. Expecting more than will be.
All right, here's the last clip of the day.
I'm Jonathan Rauch, an Atlantic contributing writer and the author of America Needs to Radically Rethink What It Means to Be Old, an article in the January issue on what may be the most important demographic development in our time, the longevity revolution. Specifically, I cover two important new books on the future of aging in America. Both books, one by the historian James Chappell and the other by the economist Andrew Scott, argue that the old model of disappearing into a retirement community is out of date. Today's average 65-year-old American can expect to live almost 20 more years. An American child born today has a better than even chance of living to age 95. 100-year lifespans will become common. It's even possible that the first person to live to age 150 has already been born. The two authors have very different takes on the implications. James Chappell calls for ambitious government efforts to plug gaps in the safety net for seniors, such as long-term care. Andrew Scott wants to scrap the whole concept of age-based retirement. He wants to focus instead on improving seniors' health and opportunities so they can do and contribute more in their additional years. Me, I think the implications may be even bigger. We're inventing a whole new stage of life, one that doesn't yet even have a name, but will transform how we think about aging. Call it late adulthood, and read more about it in the January Atlantic.
So I have a friend who is working on a business. I don't want to say too many particulars, but it is around this idea of aging and what they have been calling the silver tsunami that is going to overwhelm our healthcare system because there's going to be so many old people. But the point that my friend makes about that is that we have to start thinking about what our goals are for caring for the elderly. So basically what winds up happening is people want to live as long as they possibly can. In spite of how miserable they might be along the way, what the approach is for medicine is how do we keep you alive and then keep it going. And it works out in a lot of ways well for like the hospital people or everything else, because the longer you're alive, the more money you spend with them, And so the question I think that we need to ask ourselves about rethinking aging is about rethinking the ways in which we want to age, because dying is inevitable. Everybody's going to do it. Are you concerned with just living as long as you can? Are you trying to get the most bang for your buck out of the living? And how do you go about kind of planning along the way to make that happen? Because one way to alleviate the burden on the hospitals that is coming is the idea of stop just defaultly trying to keep people alive. And that sounds terrible to be like, well, just let them die, right? That's not what I'm saying. But there are questions that people could be asked on the front end about what they want to do and how to handle those things that will help us deal with the fact that our system, as it is constructed, is not equipped to handle people living to 150 years. And I'm not sure if you've been reading the news lately, but the unpopular healthcare system is the one that you will be putting in, entrusting these old people with, and all they're going to try to do is run your pockets. So what is that exactly that you want? But I just wanted this in there because there is a lot for us to think about what aging is going to mean.
All right, Bo, this week's prompt was a time you were shocked when you met a friend's significant other. Really good prompt, really good submissions. Here's our first one.
So, Bomani, big fan. I've called in before and made the podcast. I try not to call in unless it's valid. This one, I was literally at work and I ran downstairs to make this call. So, the time I had met someone's significant other that was surprising was with my paternal aunt, who was married to my uncle for 20 years, got divorced, and started redating again. And I was living in LA at the time. She's in Chicago. And I come home for a visit, and I go in the living room, and I see the guy, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, guy looks familiar. And he's like, oh, what's up, Mitch? And come to find out, this guy who is my age, I used to go to high school with him. And I didn't like him then. I didn't like him at that time either. So mine ended up having a kid with him, you know. Just yeah. Talk about surprised. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Love the show. Appreciate you.
Yeah, Sean, that's a little tricky right there.
You could really hear the disappointment in his voice about this thing that has happened in his life.
Yes. Yes, he did. I will tell a story. It's a detail about the significant other. My homeboy introduced me to his girl one time. He may actually be listening right now, and now we can maybe talk about this later because we didn't talk about it at the time. But I'm out one night at this club, and he's with this woman, and she was a Caucasian lady, and she introduced myself. I was like, hey, I'm Bomani. She goes, hi, I'm Keisha. I said, what did you say? Like, lucky enough, it was loud, so it was legitimate for me to be like, what did you say? She said, Keisha. My name is Keisha. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on? And, hey, man, you know damn well when you introduce people to this white girl named Keisha, they're not expecting that. Give me a heads up. You could have saved me a lot of space in this situation. Keisha. And look, it wasn't like she ain't had no slanty hair. She ain't had no bamboo earrings. She was a decidedly Caucasian woman named Keisha. And as I wanted answers, man, that motherfucker left. He dipped up out the spot. We never talked about it again.
And that's not you being rude. I think that's more on your friend for not giving you a heads up because you need a heads up there.
That's right. I never heard about Keisha ever again.
Shout out to you, Keisha. Here's our next one.
Hey, what's going on, Bo? What's going on, Sean? This is Dre calling from Georgia. Long time listener, first time caller. I want to tell you a story about the biggest shock I ever seen. So me and my sister about 2 years apart. She's 2 years older than me. And all throughout school, my sister always liked the tall guys. It was always a thing, tall guys. So, you know, my sister ended up graduating from college. She joined the military. And she's dating this guy. And, you know, we all can't wait to meet this guy. The guy's name is Steve. Like, oh, man, we can't wait to meet Steve. And so when they came home, my sister got the car. We like, where's this guy at? Because my sister's like 5'9". This dude got the car, man, he's about 5'6", 140 pounds. And we are like shocked because this is not the physical prototype that we normally have seen her with. And so, you know, as time went along, you know, we thought, oh, this is just some guy we talked to. It won't last. A couple years later, they ended up getting married and proposed to us. So my dad never asked, but he finally got nervous to ask my sister, what was it about this guy that you like? You know, he ain't what you look for. And she told my dad, she was like, you just don't understand, like, he was so smart, he's so driven, And, 17 years later, man, they still married, and they've been going strong with all those 4 kids they got. So, hey, you never know what can happen. Appreciate it.
I thought she was going to hit your daddy with a different truth. And she was going to be like, she's going to be like, Daddy, them tall boys wasn't always tall. You know what I mean? But right here, shit, I found Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's what I thought she was going to tell him.
Yeah, it was a much more sweet end of the note, and a big shout out to all my fellow short kings. Not as short as Steve, but good for you, Steve. Good for you, Steve. All right, here's our last one.
This is Mark from Colorado, longtime listener, first-time caller. So to preface this, based on how I set up the story, you can guess the end. But it is how it ends that makes the story. My buddy and I grew up in the 2000s, massive basketball fans. We were big college ball fans, in fact, and the team we were fans of had a top 25 player of all time. So when balling, my homie would pretend he was his favorite point guard of said college team. So much so that we would tease him about it. Well, flash forward to our freshman year of college. We're throwing a party for said homie, and his sister is coming and bringing her new boyfriend. Well, when his sister gets there, in she walks with, you guessed it, Buddy's favorite point guard. Buddy was starstruck. His sister does all the introductions, and when she gets to my homie, it's exactly how she introduced him. This is Nate. He used to pretend to be you when playing ball. My buddy is not Caucasian, but if he was, he would have been redder than Bomani's Christmas cap. Thanks for the time. Keep up the top tier content.
Wow.
I need to know. I need to know who the player is.
I do too.
If you're the caller who called in, we'll keep it between me and Bo, but just call in and let us know who the player is.
Details. Yeah, he didn't give us enough details to glean this. Huh.
He's top 25 player. I don't know when this guy was in school, but that's a really funny bit by the sister to do that.
I mean, look, top 25 point guard. There's really only one answer. Or two tops. Huh.
Now I'm curious. It's gonna keep me alive. Keep me awake all week. Hopefully you call in, sir.
I agree. Speaking of curious, Sean, do you have prize picks for the people?
I sure do, Bo. Monday Night Football. I believe we have 2 games tonight. Minnesota Vikings versus Chicago Bears, and unfortunately, my Atlanta Falcons versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go Jordan Addison, 55.5 receiving yards. I'll take more there. Bijan Robinson, 0.5 rush reception touchdowns. I think he's a lock for a touchdown. My guy, Younghoe Koo, 1.5 field goals made. He had a little slump in the middle of the season. Now he's back. So I think he's going to make 2 field goals. And then Caleb Williams, this is a fun one, Bo. 0.5 interceptions. I think he will certainly throw a pick tonight.
Wow, pessimistic Sean, rearing his unseen head.
It's the one way I can get away with it.
It's fair. By the way, according to the Virginian Pilot, a newspaper in Virginia, Michael Vick is interviewed to be the head coach at Norfolk State, and you can't possibly be serious. What has he done to make you think he should be your coach?
Run fast? I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this here 3 times a week. That is Sean Yu. He handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Also, thank you to our If You Haven't Heard contributors. There we go. Thanks to Keren Landman of Vox. Check out the story on drug expiration dates and them being meaningless at Vox.com. Thanks to Adam Estes at Vox. Check out his story about what to do with all your old cables at your house at Vox.com. And thanks to Jonathan Rauch of The Atlantic. Check out his story on America needing to rethink what it means to be old at TheAtlantic.com. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.